Hey guys, and welcome back to another episode of Bejeweled Book Reviews and more. Today I am featuring my DIY Dinosaur Cave. I'm really excited about this one because when you guys see how easy it is, you're going to be like, are you kidding me? It is really easy. The things that I do are pretty simple. I get a lot of comments saying I'm super creative and they love the things that I'm doing, but they're pretty easy actually. And these are things that you can do whether you're making something for your kids at home for their playroom or an area of their room, or if you're doing this inside of your classroom in your dramatic play area. So many of the things that I do are props actually for events that we have, like back to school events and stuff like that. Because I've made like my Crayola box as well as my school bus for those things. But when I put things in the environment, I ensure that before I even put them in the environment, I look at what the intent is behind it, the value that the kids are going to get out of it, and how can they help me throughout the process. So I'll talk to you a little bit about that at the very end of the video, but I want to get started because it's a lot of stuff to go over and I have materials and things like that, and I don't want to keep you guys on the video for too long. Now, I used a pretty big box. I don't remember the size of the box. I just know it was a big enough box to comfortably fit, at least 2 or 3 preschoolers inside of it. But I tried to minimize it and have it where I limited it rather to just 2 kiddos at a time, because otherwise it was just going to be, too much going on. But when you have things like this in your environment, you need to make sure that you have tons of other cool things for them to explore with as well, so that you don't have everyone all fighting to go over into that one area. So I did have tons of other things in that area for kids to explore with, and I did limit it to 4 children, and I had it on a timer for the kids that can go inside the cave, and then they would rotate, and then another group of kids would go in. So that's kind of how I managed it, so it wouldn't be a complete hot mess. But the box that I actually chose, like I said, it was a pretty big box, and it was big enough for 2 kids to go inside of. But the box that I have for you is a smaller box. Of course, I make the small versions, but I'm like, man, maybe this box is a little bit too big. So I will have to kind of adjust myself in the camera a little bit so you guys can see it. I didn't put it together completely, but I wanted you to see what it looks like without having the paper covering it, because a lot of people, was wondering if it was paper mache, but absolutely not. I'm not that creative. I didn't do paper mache. It was plain bulletin board paper. So I'm going to show you all the materials that you're going to need. But of course, the very first thing you're going to need is the box. You want to choose a box, like I said, where kids can get inside of it comfortably, where they can sit in it crisscross applesauce, or if their legs are straight, and they have plenty of headroom as well inside the box. So the box that I chose to show you for an example of the DIY project was just a regular box. I ordered some things from Walmart the other day, and I was like, hey, this would be a great box to show for my cave. So this is just a regular box here. And as you can see, the sides, the front and the back, those areas are, a lot, longer lengthwise than the sides are. So it's up to you how you want to do it. I actually like the boxes that look like this, that's not completely the same size on each side of the box, because this does give a little bit of room for kids to actually get inside of it and spread out a little bit, and they're not crowding each other. But all I did was, of course, cut the flaps off. That's the first step. Once you cut the flaps off of the box, the next thing is to cut like an opening, kind of like a doorway for them to actually climb into and go into the actual cave. So as you can see, that's pretty much all I did. And then once I did that, guys, I flipped it upside down. When I flipped it upside down like this, you can kind of see that, the kids painted the inside of it black. So they painted the inside of it black, and then when they were done painting the inside of it, the next day when it was dry, I gave them, the plastic stickers and, to put actually the stars and planets and things like that on, and they glow in the dark. It was important that I chose a glow in the dark one, so that when the kids were inside of the cave, it seemed like made them feel like rather that they were outside and they were looking right up at, the stars and the planets and stuff like that. So this is what they did. They painted the inside of it black, and then we had another project where it was sitting on the floor, and these guys just, put the different, I gave them like tape and other little things, and we just stuck everything down. Like we glued some of them down, we taped some of them down that were falling, and some of them were actual stickers that they just peeled off and just put wherever they wanted. Now mine is super neat because I did it, of course, all of my stars are at the top, but when the kids are doing it, trust me, they're going to be stars on the side, they're going to be planets on the side. It doesn't even matter, it's their stuff, so let them do it any way that they want. They don't have to cover the whole entire inside of that box with black paint. Just let them cover up whatever it is that they want to cover, because once you actually sit it down on the floor like this, it's going to cut off the natural light inside of the classroom anyway, so you don't have to worry about that. And the stickers or the plastic stars, and I'll show you what I purchased, they'll glow right in the dark. So that's pretty much it. The flaps are off. You cut that little opening right there, and then you flip it upside down. You let your kiddos paint the inside of it. You wait for it to dry, and then you just let them just go for it with putting the things all over the inside of the box so it can glow in the dark, which made it extra fun, right? So that is the box. I'm going to sit the box down, and I'm going to show you guys the materials that you're going to actually need when you're doing this project. So the materials you're going to need is, of course, the bulletin board paper. So I have like this roll here because I wanted to show you guys how I did it. So I purchased this roll right here for like $6.99, so you can see like how much you get from it. Think of this as your bulletin board paper at work. This is the paper that I actually use for it. And this was, like I said, $6.99 at Michael's. So this is what I use to just make this, to make a replica of a larger one that I actually made. I can't talk today. A replica of the one that I actually made. So I use this right here. And once you actually get that, you're going to need to have paint. So your classroom and your classroom paint is perfect. If you're doing this from home, then you want to purchase the paint right in, your local craft store. Is pretty easy. So I have this paint, and it's just a regular basic paint. I think it was like $3.99 for this right here. And you're going to use more of the white paint than you're going to use the black. Now, this is some black paint that I already had on hand from when I was living in Germany. So if you see like a name on it, like what kind of paint is that? It's actually in German. So when I was living in Germany, I would go to the different craft stores or whatever they had there, which was very few. They didn't have very many, and I picked up some paint. But you're going to need black paint, you're going to need white paint. And the other color paint that you're going to need, guys, is a silver like metallic paint. So this kind of has like a shimmer in it because it is metallic. This is what I use also when we were doing it. So all you do once you get the paper together is that you lay it flat on a lunch table or something like that, wherever you want to roll it out where it could be pretty large. I think I actually did 2 tables because I wanted to have a lot of it. So rolled it out. Once I rolled it out, I just, had the kids I'm like, guys, here's the paint. Squirt the paint on it. They squirted the paint on it. They put black paint, they put white paint, and then they just kind of went to work. So I actually purchased a bunch of these. They were super cheap. So I think it wasn't a bunch. It was like 6 of them in a pack. So this is what they use, and they spreaded this instead of the, brushes that we have on hand inside of the classroom because it was a large surface area for these guys to do. So they did that, and once they did that, I had to do 2 smaller tables of it because I had smaller tables, so that's why I had to have like 2 large pieces of paper. If it was the older classrooms, then I would have been able to just do like 1 big large piece, but I had that. So you're also going to need some of these, guys. These are the glow in the dark stars or planets. Now I bought these also at Michael's. You can get them from any one of your local craft stores. You can order them on Amazon. They weren't that expensive. I want to say like maybe $4.99 for a pack. And you could just have these guys just spread them out however you want. You could have them glue them down. Like I said, I was giving them little pieces of, tape to put on the back of them to tape them down. I was using masking tape. So I didn't want to use like the other tape. I used the masking tape because it actually stayed up there a little bit better. Like I said, they're going to fall down here and there, but that's fine. We use glue, we use glue sticks, we use whatever we could. Now these actually come with like their own tape to go along with it. So when we ran out of that, that's pretty much what we use. Whatever you have on hand basically is good. Another thing that you can use is pretty cool is the little 3D dots. Like the 3D dots are good to use for this as well if you want to securely stick it up there and you don't have to worry about it, but they can be kind of expensive. So of course, when you're doing this in your classroom, you want to try to minimize the cost as much as possible. So we just use the materials that we had on hand. And you're gonna also need some vegetation. So these are like little fake ferns or whatever. I got this from the dollar store. And if you want to add this on, you can. This is what I use. And then I also used a tablecloth. So I use a tablecloth to represent a stream of water, like a waterfall or a stream of water coming down the sides of the actual cave. So this is what I use. And I cut a piece of it so you guys can actually see. And this was, of course, $1.25 or whatever. So this is what I use for that. And the vegetation can just be sporadically spread out. You could tape it down once you put the paper onto the actual box. And then you can create that effect that it has like the water streaming down with some little vegetation on it. And then, of course, the paper. So when you finish the paper and it dries, here is the secret. A lot of people were wondering, like, how did I get that rock effect? It was the craziest thing you could possibly imagine and the most simplistic thing. Because I was thinking the same thing too. I was like, how am I going to make it look like a rock? A giant rock in a cave that they're going inside of, you know. And some people were like, is it paper mache? Like, how does she do it? I'm like, girl, no, I did not do paper mache. That would have took forever. These guys painted it, and when it dried, I just simply crumbled the whole thing up. So this is what it looks like. It looks just like this when these guys are finished with it. I cut like a piece of it so you guys can see. This is what it looks like when they're all done. And once you crumble the whole thing up, and when you lay it on top of the box, it gives the illusion of rock. So you guys see how after I crumbled it up, it actually gives the illusion of, you know, a giant rock formation. Basically, that's all I did. So the pieces that I cut off, the excess pieces that I cut off of the paper, once I covered it on the box, is what I used. I had the kids, we balled the paper up, and then I stuffed it underneath, like right on top. So I'll show you like kind of how it would look. So here's the box right here, right? So I would just like sporadically place the pieces that we balled up like this on top of the box so I can get the actual shape that I wanted. So it made it look like the, you know, once I laid the larger piece on top of it, it actually made it look like it had like a giant shape, like it was a big boulder, a big rock. So that's basically what I did. So I'm gonna put the whole thing together so you guys can see what it will look like. But I'm gonna get rid of those. But before I do that, I wanna show you the box again. Again, I cut the flaps off the box from here. The kids painted the inside of it. I just told them to cover up as much as they could. I didn't care if it wasn't completely covered. And then we stuck down the glow in the dark stars and stuff like that. So guys, I'm gonna attempt to put this together so you can see what it looks like. So we'll see. It's gonna be kind of crazy. I'm gonna try to do it as fast as possible though, so you guys are not like waiting or anything like that. So I have a couple little things here to help me out, which is my little glue gun, which I forgot to tell you guys. Yeah, you're probably gonna need a glue gun when you're piecing some of these things together. Now, once the kids kind of did their part and balled up the paper and things like that, the next step for me was at nap time, I assembled it. That's typically the time that I assemble things, usually at nap time, because that's when they all, you know, were asleep and I was able to do it. And then when these guys woke up, the cave was already kind of set up, and then I had them help me put the lid of the cave on, which is the cover, rather, not really the lid, but the cover of it, which is my larger piece of paper. All right, so like I said, I have a ton of stuff that's sitting here on my desk. So if things start falling, just be like, okay, it's all good. She has things falling everywhere. All right, guys, so I'm gonna try my best to get this all put together. So sorry if anything, like I said, is in the camera, but I did a pre-cut. So that piece, I want to show you this real quick too. The piece that I cut out right here is right here. And this is what I used when I actually cut the larger piece. So I put the large piece of paper after we balled the whole thing up. I put it over the box to see where I wanted to make my cuts. And then I used this as my template for where I wanted to cut that piece of paper at. So I was able to match it up almost like a puzzle. So let me get that paper and I'll show you what it looks like. It's all balled up, so this is kind of what that paper would look like once the children and I balled the whole thing up, and then I cut out the actual doorway of it. I just simply laid it on top. So I'm going to do that so you guys can see what it looks like once I lay it on top. And like I said, it's pretty easy. It's not as hard as people think it is. Like I said, out of all of the projects I think I made with my kiddos, I want to say this was absolutely by far the easiest one to make with them, because they were so proud of it too, guys. I mean, like, they were so proud of this cave. When the parents came in, you know, every single time the parents came in the door, they would point it out, like, look at our cave, look at our dinosaur cave. Like, it was a really, really big deal for them. And I love that a lot too, because you don't want your kids to say, look at the cave my teacher made. You know, you want them to be able to say, look at the cave, you know, that I made or my friends made, and things like that. That's what you want. You really want that to be you want them to be the stars of it, right? I may have come up with the box and did the cuts, but these guys put in the work. You know, put your kids to work. They love it, you know, and then they feel proud of the things that they've actually accomplished and that they've done with you. So I always encourage that highly. I honestly do. You know, we need to make sure that, like I said, our children are always a big part of our learning process, because it does add so much value to the things that they're doing. So I added, like I said, if you guys want to, you can add, you know, a little waterfall to the side of it. You don't have to if you don't want to. It's up to you. It's something I actually, as you can hear, things are like starting to drop and fall. It's all good though. It's for the good, right? All right, so I'm going to go ahead on and I'm going to add my waterfall to the side of it, and maybe a little bit of the vegetation. I'm going to add a little bit of that to it. And I'm running out of glue. So guys, this is another thing I want to tell you too. Make sure you get like the longer glue sticks, because then if you get the smaller ones, then you're constantly changing these things out. So the longer glue sticks, I think, work so much better. I'm going to add a few things here just to give it the illusion of, you know, I have like some things coming out of it. I'm just going to do one, but you guys know kind of what you can do. You can always add a lot more to it. All right, guys, so I'm going to turn it around so you can see it. Hopefully you can see it in the camera. I'm going to kind of scooch back a little bit, but can you guys see that? This is what the cave actually looks like when it's all complete. Looks pretty cool, right? It looks really cool. And guys, all I did was, like I said, we balled the paper up and we laid it right on top. And as you can see, this is like my little streaming waterfall here. I added a little bit of the vegetation there. I just added one, but you can, of course, can add a lot more to it, or you don't have to add the waterfall on it at all. But this is pretty much, I'm going to put it back a little bit so you can see it. But this is what the cave looks like when you're all done. And of course, you know, the kids can go inside of it. And when they go inside of it, it has the stars and everything right inside of it. Like I said, I'll go through, I added a little bit of hot glue here and there to put this down, and a little bit on the sides just to keep it on there, so if the kids bump into it, the whole thing doesn't fall over and I have to keep replacing it. But I just put it in a couple little spots. I didn't put it all the way around because I just wanted to show you guys what it'll look like once you do put it together. And basically that's your cave. That is your cave right here. I really love this a lot. The kids loved it a lot, and it was a great thing to do. So one of the things I want to talk to you a little bit about and then I'll close the video, is making sure that whatever it is that you guys are doing with them, that, like I said, they're part of the process. It was a dinosaur unit. We talked about it. We talked about what we should have in our dinosaur forest, and these guys chose to have a dinosaur cave. I asked them what the the things that they wanted to have in it. I used that as an opportunity for a writing, language, and literacy. I wrote it down. I charted what they wanted, their names, what they said should go inside of it, and then we created and made those different things. Like I had dinosaur eggs in there that we made. And I actually saw something really cool I wanted to tell you guys about real quick, is that I saw somewhere on a video on, I don't know, social media somewhere, where they put like the little tiny dinosaurs that you guys get, that we have inside of our classrooms. They put them inside of actual balloons, and then they put the balloon on the excuse me, on the faucets. And when they put the balloons on the faucet, they made water balloons with a dinosaur in it, and then they put it inside of the freezer. And when they put it in the freezer, it froze like a little small like ball. And then they took it out, and when they took it out, they removed the balloons, and then the kids were able to like, try to, bang on it and crack on it. They had like these little hammer things for them to use to try to open it up to get the dinosaurs out. So it looks like a perfect dinosaur egg made out of ice. So they had it outside, but I was thinking if you do this in the winter time, you can always put it right inside of your sensory table and have these guys do it. I forgot how I made mine, but we had, the dinosaurs there. Of course, they had flashlights to go inside. I asked these guys what they needed. They said like dinosaur food and snacks or whatever. So we created and made everything together, and those were the things that they had in that particular area. So those are just some ideas. Again, guys, when you're putting these things together, think about what you want them to learn from this. I turned this into a language and literacy activity by just talking about the things that would go in there. I turned it into a fine motor activity as we balled things up, as they painted. We talked about what we wanted it to look like, and these guys truly enjoyed it and they loved it. And I think this is something that will work if you're doing this at home or at school. So if you guys have any comments on this, I would love to hear it. I hope this was helpful. You can rewind the video or go back. I say rewind. That dates myself, right? You could just scroll back rather. And then you can take a look at it and see, what area you may have missed. And then you can just kind of take a look at it again. If you have any other questions about it or any suggestions, I'm definitely open to it. All right, guys. Sorry I had you on the video so long. Thanks again for joining me for the DIY Dinosaur Cave. I'm going to show it to you one more time. I actually put it on the floor, but I'm going to pick it up and show it to you one last time before I close. All right, guys. Here it is. Our Dinosaur Cave. Make sure that your kids are a part of it, guys. It's going to be so much fun. They're going to love it. I guarantee you. All right. I'll see you guys again soon.